he's on the other side of the upright, so he knows it's coming to him. So he's like celebrating, and so then we just started going nuts, and everybody started, running all over the place, and just like it was pure pandemonium. One of the most unbelievable experiences I've ever had in professional sports.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Beer With, where we sit down and have a beer with someone that has an amazing story to tell. Today, I am sitting here with a good friend of mine, Mr. Nick Moore, your long snapper for the Baltimore Ravens. Dude, what is up?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It is my pleasure, man. I'm so excited when we started talking about doing this together, and it is very much on purpose that you are episode number 1. Because in future episodes, you might just be dropping in to be a co-host from time to time.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking to some really cool people. And I'm excited to get to have a beer with you today. And man, do you have a crazy story to tell?
Well, thank you. I am excited to do this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Very unique environment, and I think we'll have a really good conversation here.
And who doesn't like to have a beer with somebody?
Exactly.
Right? Everyone likes to have a beer with.
You love that.
Today we are here at Union Craft Brewing, and they have been such great hosts, allowing us to use their space to record the podcast today. They have set us up with some great beers. You're drinking the Zadie's Lager.
Yeah.
And I'm going with the classic Duckpin Pale Ale. And as a Duckpin bowler, I had to go with the Duckpin. It's just a classic.
Yeah, I'm excited to try this.
You haven't
huge
had
shout
it?
out to Union for having us out. This is a great space. My first time being here, so I'm excited got to check it out a little bit beforehand. So this is a really cool space, and the Duckpin room that we're in right now is pretty freaking sweet.
It is. It's a cool little space. They use it for private events and stuff like that. They literally have like a duck pin ball return thing over here, which is
I
pretty
see
neat.
that.
Their tables are made out of duck pin lanes, and it's a really cool space. So thank you so much to Union for allowing us to shoot out here today. All right, so Nick, I guess one of the first things I want to get into, obviously, is you're an active roster player on the Baltimore Ravens. At the time of this filming, you are about to head into training camp.
Yep.
So what is that like for you this time of the year? What's it like gearing up for training camp, dude?
We got about 5-6 days till I report. This is the time of year you try to spend as much time as you can with your family. Get in those for me, I'm getting in my last few rounds of golf this weekend. Just trying to kind of enjoy the last couple of days where you don't have anything going on, and be present for my kids and for my wife, and get some errands done, because the next month or so is going to be a very busy time for the next about 6 weeks. So trying to do some of the dad tasks with take the cars to the shop, make sure the house is in order before we hit the ground running for the season. So this is always it's an anxious time of year, because you're ready to get back. We haven't played football in a long time, and we're ready to kind of get going. But at the same time, you want to be, you still want to enjoy the last, week of your freedom before everything hits the ground running. So
you just told me off camera, though, you play a lot of golf. You said your handicap is 5.
It is, yeah. I've picked up golf heavily the last 3 or 4 years. Since I've gotten up here, I've met some really fantastic golfers. I've joined Baltimore Country Club about 2 years ago, and I've kind of really gotten thrown into the wolves with the golf. I've played some really awesome golf courses around, and it's something that's one of my passions. I hope, I didn't play it as a kid. I was a baseball, football guy. My dad was a baseball and football coach, and it's something that I really enjoy to do, and I hope that my kids can fall into that same love that I have for it. So it's something that it's great for the whole family. You can get everybody out there. So, I like to think I'm really good. I have good days and bad days like everybody else. So I'm excited to see where my golf career goes.
I mean, I'm not going to go shot a hole with you, because I thought I'm a pretty average golfer, but my handicap is closer to 10, and you're shooting at 5. So, yeah, there's no way like we're going a shot a hole or anything.
I mean,
like
a 5 means I can shoot anywhere from a 75 to a 95.
Are you taking mulligans, dude?
No. So I tend to play straight up. The only thing I will do, which is kind of it's kind of like a unspoken rule in golf. Everyone gets 2 off the first if you need it, and that's the only the only thing I'll do.
But what if the starter's watching you, dude?
Well, everybody gets two off the
You're just
first,
like,
man.
I'm Nick Moore. I'm
No,
not another
no.
one.
I've played some really awesome golf courses in the U.S. and been very blessed. And if I can take a mulligan off the first tee at certain golf courses down south, then I think you can take it anywhere.
Speaking of down south, you're from Georgia. You're a
Yeah.
Georgia guy.
Yeah, through and through, man. Grew up there, born there, raised there. Went to University of Georgia. Legacy. Most of my family went there. My wife went to school there. We'll probably be back there when everything's said and done with the football. We love it so much down there.
How does that compare to Baltimore?
It's honestly where I grew up is very similar to Westminster. So my wife and I lived in Westminster for about 2.5 years, and it's a very similar vibe. We have more cattle farms than up there. It's more like crops, a lot of corn, a lot of soybeans, but it's a very small. It's decently small. Now where I grew up is crazy busy in Metro Atlanta. I mean, it's the county I grew up in is just slam full of people, but it's got a very similar vibe to the suburbs up here.
Yeah.
Atlanta itself is a lot different than Baltimore. Not on the coast, not a ton of water. It's just a different feel. But as far as the suburbs and where I grew up and went to school, it's very similar to here.
Now, you said your father was a football and a baseball coach. Now, one of the most unique things about your story that I feels like has to be told is your path to the NFL is unlike any other, really.
There's a handful of us that have done a little bit of both. So
Well, there was just a post out yesterday that
yeah,
I saw.
I
that you
saw
kinda-
that. One of my good friends sent me that, and I was like, man, I didn't even see it. So it was cool. Yeah, I did the baseball route. Unfortunately, that didn't work out for me, and then I kind of went back to school, and here we are.
Well, first of all, did you brag yesterday that you were drafted higher than Patrick Mahomes? Come on, did that come out of your mouth yesterday?
It did not. It did not. Pat was, I've never seen him play baseball. I've seen him play some softball over the years, but I would imagine he was, equally as talented as I was in baseball, if not a little bit better.
So, in high school, though, were you all in on baseball?
Yeah. So, growing up for me, baseball was always the dream. Since I was 5 years old, there's a kindergarten post or like a paper that I did that basically was like a picture of a pro baseball player and like what do I want to do when I'm older, and that was always the dream for me was to make it to the big leagues. The guys I idolized, Chipper Jones, growing up in Atlanta in the 90s and early 2000s. That was kind of the heyday for the Braves. So guys like Chipper and Andrew Jones and John Smoltz and Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux and all these guys, and then some of my favorite players of all time are Barry Bonds and Derek Jeter and dudes I like idolized were all these baseball players. And I love football as much, but I always felt like baseball was a better option for me long term. Turns out it was not. So
It's still amazing, though, because out of high school, you were drafted by the Red Sox organization,
Yes.
and you played for 4 years in, professional baseball. And so that must have been an amazing time for you, like living your dream and getting to play pro ball.
It was. I'll say this. It was the most challenging time of my life. I struggled, mightily in minor league baseball, and but it was kind of a double-edged sword because I was living my dream. It was what I wanted to do, but I knew some guys along the way that are, household names nowadays, and it took me a while to realize, this isn't something I'm going to do. I wasn't quite cut from the same cloth as some of the guys I knew and played with, and I gave it everything I had. I worked my tail off. I did everything in my power to make it to the big leagues. And when I was 22, I realized that that door was going to shut, and it was going to shut very fast. And by the end of it, honestly, I was relieved, and I was okay with how my professional baseball career went about and then ended ultimately.
So what was that conversation like with your father when you kind of came to the realization, like, hey, I don't think I'm going to be cut out to be a professional baseball player? where do you think I go from here?
You know, it wasn't an easy one.
I can't imagine. Like, yeah, it's gonna be a tough.
No,
choice.
it was a hard combo, but it was one that had been brewing for a while. It wasn't like it just hit me one day like I wasn't expecting it. I remember in 2014, I was playing first base for the Lowell Spinners. I had a manager by the name of Joe Oliver. He was a catcher for the Cincinnati Reds, won a World Series in the 90s with the Reds. And we drafted a first baseman in the second round in 2014. And he brought me into his office the day after the draft. And he kind of set me down. And, you know, him and I got to know each other really well. He was also a Georgia guy. I love the Bulldogs. So we had that, you know, passion together. And he kind of just set me down and was like, hey, look, you know, we just drafted Sam Travis in the second round to play first base out of college. He went to Indiana. He's going to be joining the team here. So, you know, I'm just going to tell you straight up, this is probably it for you. And because at the time I was 21 years old, and Sam was also, he was actually 20 at the time. But, you know, I was around long enough and I saw enough guys get cut and kind of how that worked. And so I was not shocked. So I'd kind of been preparing myself for a while. And like I said, I felt like by the end of my career, I had done everything in my power to get to the big leagues. And I wasn't cut out for it.
Yeah. I think for me, because I grew up a baseball and basketball player, basketball early on, I knew I wasn't going to go anywhere with it because I played with Juan Dixon at Calvert Hall. We had like a nationally ranked program. And I just knew in high school, I was like, I'm not going anywhere with basketball. But I still held out aspirations for baseball. You know, I had a good arm. I was a good fielder. I was a good utility fielder, good hitter. But then it did, like around college, it started to hit me, and I got the realization, like, yeah, it's not going to be there. And while I didn't have the same situation you were in because you were already in pro ball, it definitely it hits you hard when you're like, all right, I'm going to do this for fun now, but I'm not going to be doing this professionally.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's tough when that was my dream, and it's really difficult to, excuse me, kind of come to terms with yourself. Like, this is something I've wanted my entire life, and it's not going to happen.
Right.
And it's like, what do we do? What do we do now? And I had nothing to be ashamed of. Like, I wasn't, you know, I was a career 211 hitter, which is not good in the minor leagues. You know, I pretty good on defense, but I struggled hitting. I struck out a lot. So anytime you don't put the ball in play, it's really difficult to be a successful hitter. But it was just, it was hard. And it took a lot of, you know, diving into myself to really learn about who I am and what I'm made of and what I want out of this life. And, you know, baseball took a lot out of me mentally, physically, emotionally. You know, it drained every ounce of my being basically. And I just, when it was over, I'll tell you this, when I got cut, on the day I got cut, I'll never forget. They told me, you know, when I was with the Red Sox, we had this long walkway from the parking lot into the minor league side of the facility. It was all the way on the other end, you know, to walk past the big league room and all that stuff. And you're coming around, and we have a weight room that's kind of in the middle between the big leagues and the minor leagues, and it's all glass. And I'd been there for, you know, 4 years, and I had seen hundreds of guys get cut. And they always put like a coach who they thought, or I don't know exactly how they worked it out, but it was basically how I viewed it was whichever coach that they felt you guys had the closest connection, he was there waiting on you when you walked in the building, and he came in. And so for me, that was Joe Oliver. He was my manager my last year. I saw him on the last day of spring training, right? Like the day they made the final rosters. I'm walking around, I'm coming through the glass, and I can see him from about, I don't know, 30 yards. And I know, I'm like, yep, that's for me. He's there for me. And so I walk in the door, he meets me on the other side of the door, he hugs me, you know, puts his arm around me. Didn't really say a word. I kind of knew, and he's like, just come with me. So I go in, I sit down with our farm director and a couple of the other coaches, higher ups in the minor leagues. And when they told me I got cut, honestly, it was like a weight got lifted off my shoulders, because I never wanted to, you know, my dad always told me, you can't quit. So whatever you start, you got to see it through to the end.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to give up because I knew I would always regret that decision. If I chose to leave before they told me to leave, I would have always looked back on that like, man, maybe I could have.
Yep.
But by them deciding to cut me, it finalized everything for me, and I just let out this big exhale and was like, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wanted it to be over as much as you guys wanted me to be done, and they kind of did that for me. And I wasn't even emotional until some of my coaches that I had through the years, they started getting emotional. I was a good guy. I worked my tail off. I did everything that they asked me to do. I just wasn't talented enough to play.
Sure.
And I had a couple of coaches, say their goodbyes to me and that they got emotional. So then I got emotional, and, I called my parents and I told them, that I got cut and I was going to be coming home today. And honestly, it was the best thing that's ever happened to me outside of, meeting my wife and having my kids. But as far as a professional development, that was the best thing that could have happened to me. I didn't know it at the time, but here we are 10 years later, past over 10 years now. It was the best thing that's ever happened to me.
So how do you pick yourself back up and say like, all right, I'm going to go back to school?
So I call my dad, and I'm in the facility. I got to clean out my locker and do all that stuff. Say goodbye to some of my teammates, some of my friends I had. And I call my dad. I'm like, hey, I got cut. I'm coming home tonight. He says, okay, we'll talk about what you're going to do next on your way home. And because it's a 10-hour drive from Fort Myers, Florida, back to where I grew up in Gwinnett County. And it probably took me hour or so, maybe 2 hours to get out of the facility, another hour to get get all my stuff from my house I was living in and say goodbye to everybody and get on the road. So 3, maybe 4 hours tops to get on the road. I got a 10-hour drive ahead of me. I'm probably 2 hours into the car ride. My high school football coach calls me. He had just retired at that time. He calls me and he says, Nick, do you think that you want to go to college and play football? And I was like, honestly, I've only been cut for a couple hours. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do.
Still kind of raw, coach.
Yeah, but I know that I have to go to school. At that point I was 22 years old, never went to college. Had really nothing going for me other than I was in baseball. And so I was like, I definitely have to go back to college. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to make some calls and I'll call you back later on today. And about 2 hours later, I get a phone call from a Louisiana number. I'm like, who the heck is this? I pick it up. It's I can't remember the guy's name now, but it was a special teams coach he was one of the assistant special teams guys at LSU. And he's like, hey, my name's so and so. I'd love to. I hear you're potentially thinking about coming or wanting to play football in college. And so I talked to him for a while, and then, an hour later, I get a call from a guy at Georgia Tech, and then I get a call from a dude at Georgia, and then Mississippi State, and all these places. So I guess like my dad and my coach and some of my other people that knew I wanted to potentially play football, they started calling me, asking what I was going to do.
Wow.
And I didn't really have a chance to digest what I had just gone through because all these calls started coming in.
Right.
And then I get home on a Friday, and Monday morning I went to Georgia Tech for a visit I was going to go in as a walk-on basically. I had a scholarship thing with the Red Sox. And so Monday we go to Georgia Tech. Tuesday we go to Athens to University of Georgia. Wednesday we go to Alabama and Tuscaloosa. And then Thursday we go to Mississippi State, where my dad's brother played there in the mid-'80s. And so we go to all these schools within, I hadn't been cut from baseball for 72 hours. And so I didn't really have a chance to process what I went through because the next thing was already coming so fast. And then ultimately, 2 weeks after I got cut, I decided I wanted to stay at home and go to University of Georgia, where my now wife was at school there, and my younger brother was at school there as well. And I had just been away from my family for so long. That was something I wasn't used to. So when I had the opportunity to go back, I was like, yeah, I definitely want to stay. I mean, I grew up like 45 minutes from Athens, and I was like, I definitely want to stay here and go to Georgia. And so by the 1st of May, I was already decided I was going to go play, at Georgia. I was going to walk on at Georgia. I was going to go to school there, and with zero intentions of doing what I do now. We can dive into my time at Georgia in a minute, but that's kind of how that happened. It happened really fast, and I started school June 1st of 2015.
What was the vibe like being so much older than incoming freshmen?
Well, I had some guys I played high school football with that were on the team at Georgia.
Uh-huh.
And like I was 22 when I started. So like the senior class or like the 5th year guys, they were my age. So my first couple of years really weren't that bad. It was tough adjusting from being a professional athlete where very hands off. Like they give you guidance, but it's really, one of the sayings I got accustomed to when I was in baseball was it's your career. You decide to do with it whatever you want to do with it. If you want to work hard, you do that. If you don't want to work, don't do it. Like it's up to you. You have the control over what you're going to do for your career. To going to college where my entire life was micromanaged down to the minute, and it was I got to be here at this time. I got to be at tutoring. I got to do this, and this. And it was like everything was basically taken care of for me. All I had to do was just show up. That was a really difficult adjustment for me. And also being, 4, in some cases 5 years older than my classmates, and hadn't been to school in 5 yeyears.
Right.
So I was, relearning how to be a student, all in that, and then playing football, which I hadn't done in 5 years. Like my last snap in high school was December of 2010, and my first ever play on the team at Georgia, I played. It was kickoff return, and that was September of 2015.
Yeah.
So we're talking almost 5 years exactly to play, and it was definitely a major adjustment for me. And it took a lot of time for them to be like, okay, he's an older guy. I got a little bit of after my first year, I started getting treated like an older person on the team, even though I was still only a sophomore. But it definitely was a hard transition.
That is because like the strength training, the calisthenics, everything's different between those two sports. It's almost like night and day what you have to do for baseball versus what you have to do for.
Yeah.
The leg strength is big for both sports.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't imagine like that. That's a huge transition.
It was a totally different. And college football, especially in the SEC in the South, like it is everything. And going from baseball where you're kind of a rotational athlete, you want to maintain flexibility, you want to have strength in certain areas of your body, to college football where you have to be built like a brick shit house basically.
Exactly. That's
And
perfect. That's the way
I went from in baseball, heavy weight for me was like 230 to I was 250 my first year in college, all the way up to heavy for me in football was like 260.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a massive adjustment. Luckily, I really loved working out, and I had a lot of friends there. As a walk-on, you come into college, you think like I'm going to be, Roquan Smith, we joined college. We went to college together as freshmen. So I went in as a linebacker with Roquan. And in my head, I'm like, I'm going to be, we're going to be playing side by side with each other. Well, it took me like one day to realize I was not going to play linebacker at Georgia. And, it's slowly, I learned the walk-on life is not an easy life. It's very similar to the minor league grind. It's not something I would recommend. It's very difficult. And especially at a big school like Georgia, you're on the team, but you don't get treated great. Luckily, Coach Rick, my first year, was a fantastic guy. He knew everybody by their first name. He took care of everybody. It was more of a family-oriented type thing. And then when my second year, when Coach Smart took over, it became a much more Alabama-esque business thing that it became a really difficult thing to do as a walk-on. So.
Yeah, I can't imagine because even you see it in movies like the walk-ons, it's like have such a hard road to even make an active, I guess, college roster, and then to even get the start in a game is.
Yeah, it was. I played just enough every year to keep me coming back. My first year, I played 3 games. I played a total of 11 plays my freshman year, And then my second year, I played like 4 or 5 games. They were all home games. Because in the SEC, you can dress 85 players for a home game, but you can only take 70 of them on the road.
Wow.
So like for an SEC road game, you can only have 70 players. So I was inside the 85 and I could dress for a home game and play, but I wasn't on the 70 man to go on the road to play on the road. So I would play like, I used to tell everyone I was a home game starter. I would play every home game on special teams, and then I wouldn't travel on the road and I wouldn't play in those games. I was like, I wasn't even on the team.
But that's still such a special feeling when you get to walk on your home field in
It was
front
pretty
of,
sweet.
50,000 plus fans, and they're
I
cheering.
mean, I'll say this: my first ever play at Georgia, I was a freshman. I was playing kickoff return. It was my first. It was only my second time ever going to a game at Georgia. I went right before I got cut in baseball. I went to a game for the first time ever, and so my second ever game, I was playing on the team. And my first play of the game, it was opening kickoff of the 2020 or 2015 season. It was a pooch kick. And I was playing so back in the day, we did like this 3-man kind of wedge. It kind of looked like this, where there was 2 guys up and then 1 guy was in the middle of the field. I was in the middle of the field, and then the returners were behind me. We're playing University of Louisiana Monroe. And they kicked like a pooch kick to my left, like on the hash marks. And I had Brennan Douglas, who was running back for Georgia when I was there. He was on my left. I should have probably caught the ball, but I was my first ever play. I was like,
Screw this.
I started screaming immediately. I was like, you, like, I'm not getting that.
Uh-huh.
And so I just ran out there and went and hit somebody. But it was just it was kind of a surreal experience for me.
Yeah.
And playing in Athens, it was a lot of fun. I mean, there was a lot of difficult times while I was there, but overall, the Saturdays in Athens is one of the most special things I've ever been a part of.
Really? Is it beat coming out of the tunnel at the bank?
It's a very similar feel. I think for me, I was built to play in the NFL. Like what I do now, I think this is exactly what I was supposed to be doing. And so when I run out on the bank, I'm always the first guy out of the tunnel. And it's something I got from, Morgan Cox and Sam Cook and Anthony Levine, guys I played with my first couple of years. And it's something I take pride in, like being the first guy out of the tunnel, kind of the long snapper. I don't get a ton of praise, ton of recognition, but it's like my one chance to really feel like I'm a member of the team.
We're going to dive into that in a little bit because I have
but running out,
for you about
running out in the bank, being the first guy out, it is the coolest thing you could do.
All right, so we're going to fast forward a little bit. So you went as an undrafted free agent with the Saints in 2019. Is that right?
Yep.
And
that's correct.
And then you ended up you were in their organization for a little while, and you ended up in the XFL.
Yeah.
What was that like?
So I was with the Saints. I got signed on UDFA. I was there at training camp. I played 2 games during training camp, and I got cut. And at that time, I kind of egotistically thought I was like, I could do this.
Uh-huh.
That was like the first.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, but it wasn't until, and I tell this to everybody I talk to, the first time I got cut with the Saints, or the only time I got cut from the Saints, but the first time I got cut in the NFL, that was the first moment where I really believed I could play in the NFL.
You're like, I can hang with these guys.
Yeah. And it took kind of trying to get knocked down a little bit to really be like, all right, this is something I know I can do. I'm just going to, because before, I didn't know a ton about long snapping. I only snapped 17 games in college, didn't have a ton of experience. Saints gave me a chance. I only played 8 plays in the preseason. It's not that's not a fair assessment of anybody. It's only 8 plays, but I was going up against a guy who had been there for a couple years. A bunch of guys gotten hurt. I didn't play well in those 8 plays. I might have had 3 good plays and 5 not so good plays. And so rightfully so, I got cut. And we had a bunch of guys get hurt. They needed roster spot. The backup long snapper was the first guy off. Mm-hmm. And it was at that moment, I got home from New Orleans and I was telling my dad and my now wife, I was like, this is something I want to do. I know I can do this. I just need a little bit of help, a little bit of coaching, and a mentor per se. I didn't think that coming out of college because I had an opportunity to play for the Ravens out of college. I didn't want to come here because I didn't think I had a realistic chance to make the team.
Mm-hmm.
Because Morgan Cox had been here for 10 years, and he
Right.
was who I still think is the greatest long snapper of all time. I didn't think there was any way in hell I was making this roster. And I didn't want to go there, get to know everybody, and then be shipped off somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ultimately chose the Saints, and it didn't work out there. And so I get cut. I tell my dad and my girlfriend and my mom, I'm like, this is something I want to do. I'm going to do it. And I told my agent, if there's an opportunity to sign back with the Ravens, I'm going to take it. Because I know I need somebody who historically has been really good at mentoring guys in my position, getting them into the league, and really kind of showing them the ropes. And there's no better guy on the planet than Morgan. And so my agent, I told my dad and my girlfriend, I was like, I'm going to take 4 weeks after I got cut before I realized, like, to try to get back into the league. And at the end of the 4 weeks, if I don't have a job, I'm going to get a real job.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 weeks go by. I did like 4 or 5 workouts with some teams, didn't get signed. And so I started working as a financial analyst for this company in Atlanta.
Really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so I studied finance and mathematics in college. I had a friend of mine who was the president of this fire protection agency. My wife was working there. A couple of my friends were working there, and he's like, "Hey, I'll give you a job. You can still train. We'll pay you to come in and work and kind of really get your feet wet in the corporate world. See if it's something you want to do." I was there 4 hours, and I said, "This is definitely not something I want to do." But I needed to work because I never knew if football was ever going to present itself again. And so I worked there for 43 days, and my agent signed me up for the XFL without really even, we didn't really talk about it because I wanted to play in the NFL, and I kind of was just like, whatever you think, It wasn't like we had a real conversation about this something I want to try. So I ended up getting drafted in the XFL by the Tampa Bay Vipers, and that turned out to be honestly a great decision. It was one of the most fun professional. It kind of brought back the fun side of professional sports for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Short-lived as it was.
yeah, we only played 5 games, and we were there from basically December to March, but it gave me a bunch of different things. I got opportunity to work on my job with guys that played in the NFL, punter and kicker, and a coach that used to coach for the Ravens, Frank Gans Jr. And our head coach was Mark Tressman, who was office coordinator here for the Ravens in the early 2000s. And I got some real experience working with guys in the NFL, going up against guys that played in the NFL or were trying to get back. And it was really a great opportunity for me to work on my craft. And ultimately did pretty good in the 5 games that we played. And then COVID happened, basically shut down everything. And about 10 days after that, the Ravens called, and I didn't even blink. I told my agent, if the Ravens call to sign me, we're signing. I don't care.
Right.
And so they basically signed me. I got a plane ticket to come up here. Didn't come up till July, but I was able to do the off-season program via Zoom with the guys. Got to really dive in with Morgan to learn the craft, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah, man. And so you joined the practice squad initially, and I want to say it was sort of a fluke when you got your opportunity, and it has to do with COVID, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So I went through training camp that year. We didn't have any preseason games, so we're basically just going up against each other, and you can't really compete against somebody if you don't play a game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's hard to get an assessment if you're just practicing, because eventually you get comfortable at practice and it's not the same as a game. And so the Ravens, at the end of training camp, we had this big scrimmage. I played really well in the scrimmage, but I had no business being the guy. I didn't have any game experience. The only 8 plays I had in the NFL were not good. And so, Morgan won the job. They signed him, and Harbs and Eric and Randy Brown, who's a specialist coach, they brought me in and they were like, "Hey, we want to keep you around, but if we're going to put you on practice squad, we're going to need you to do more than long snapper." And I had a background. I played fullback at Georgia, was a scout team player at Georgia for a couple years. And so they basically were like, we want you to be a scout team tight end, and we'll let you snap, whenever you get opportunity to snap, you can snap. And I still got to work with Morgan and Sam and Justin and be around for a whole season. And I was like, absolutely, I'm going to take it. Like, to be around a guy like Morgan and Sam Cook and Justin Tucker, to be around them for an entire season with zero pressure of performing on Sundays and just really dive into the very small, intricate details of our job and learn from them, watch them on a day to day, see how they take care of themselves during practice, off the field, before the games, all that stuff, can really learn how to be a pro. And that turned out to be probably the best thing I've done. And in a sense of, I learned so much from those guys, and they were honestly so great, because it's not easy being the odd man out. Like, they're used to having 3 guys, and then now you're going to have another guy in. And they were gracious enough to take me in, to teach me everything they know, to kind of really set me up for what was to come when I got my opportunity to play on a Wednesday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. Morgan, we were supposed to play them on Thanksgiving Day. Morgan calls me on Thanksgiving Day. We're still scheduled to play the game. It was Wednesday before Thanksgiving. We were going to fly to Pittsburgh that day. And he calls me that morning. He says, hey, I just tested positive for COVID. I'm out for 10 days. You're up. And I'm like freaking out, like, oh my God.
Against the Steelers, no less. Yeah.
I was like, I'm about to make my NFL debut against the Steelers. Well, the game ends up getting pushed like 5 times. So we went from we were supposed to play on Thursday on Thanksgiving to we didn't play till the following Wednesday, December 1st. And
that was a crazy season.
It was a crazy season. It was a 3:30 game on a Wednesday, and that was where I made my NFL debut. And I wouldn't have been able to perform and be as successful as I was in that game if I hadn't had the 3 guys and my coaches, and Randy Brown and Chris Horton and TJ Weiss, and even Harbs having the confidence in me to go in after not really snapping a ton that season. Because I was scout team tight end, so I didn't really get an opportunity in practice to like work on it. And then leading up to that game, we didn't practice because we had so many guys out with COVID.
I remember
and
that.
We did one or two walkthroughs, and then boom, like my first real time snapping was pregame warmups in Pittsburgh. And I
At least there was no fans there.
yeah, there was I think there was 500 fans. And so there were a couple people in the stands, but I will say that definitely made it a little bit easier for me. Now, knowing what it's like playing in an environment like Pittsburgh,
Right.
It made it a lot easier for me, actually, because you can actually hear the coaches on the sidelines and your teammates talking to you. And because it was a weird environment, like there's only 500 people and you can hear every little thing that's being said in the whole stadium. But, having those guys there and like having Sam Cook, like I remember we're walking out of the tunnel right before the game starts and we're first in line. He's like, you're following me. We're first in line. So it's me, Sam Cook, and Anthony Levine. And I'm just like deer in headlights. Like my eyes are just so big. There's nobody in the stands, but they're playing the music. And Sam just kind of grabs me, by the breastplates on the shoulder pads. And he puts his face mask right up next to mine. He goes, I don't care what you do. He goes, just play 100% effort. He goes, just throw the ball as hard as you can and just play hard. I was like, okay. And I ended up playing really well. And that ultimately got me, they saw that. They were like, this is a guy that we could have around. And that ultimately put me to where I am now as the long snapper for the Ravens.
Yeah, it was the following March, I think, is when they let Morgan go, right?
Yeah, officially.
2021.
Yeah. So I signed back in January of that year. Actually, the day after we lost to Buffalo in the divisional round. I signed back to the Ravens, and they didn't officially let Morgan go, I think, until March when free agency hit because his contract expired. But he knew, and I knew in January that I was going to be on the team, and he wasn't. And so, Morgan is a guy I have tremendous respect for, and I didn't want to compete against him anymore. Also was tired of finding new places to play. I really liked it here, so I really wanted to stay here, and I wanted to play with Sam and Justin and play alongside those guys. And so, given the opportunity, you know, the Ravens were gracious enough to sign me, and they were gracious enough to give Morgan the respect that he deserved and telling him, hey, we're going to move on to Nick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it all worked out in the end because according to Madden 25, you're a really shitty tight end, by the way.
I'm a vertical threat, though, but I'm a bad tight end.
You are
I'm
a
really
very bad tight end.
Yeah.
But luckily, I heard in Madden 26, you're actually going to be a long snapper. Have you
Yeah.
gotten your Madden rating
I haven't
yet?
got my rating yet. I'm actually excited to see how they do that. I know we talked about that last week. I'm interested to see if they give us a fair rating on our position because we had always been graded comparative to tight end. So obviously I'm a much worse tight end than Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. Like I can't compete with those guys. I'm not a tight end. So of course my rating's like a 35, you know. But if they give us a rating like kicker and punter, where it's just long snappers, maybe one of us will be in high 80s or something, or even in the 70s. Like who knows what'll happen? But
Did you ever go in and pad your stats in like franchise mode?
I mean, we get the game every year, so maybe this year I'll go in and make myself the quarterback or something.
That's awesome. All right. Well, okay. So now you're fully in the NFL, and then we're gonna like fast forward a little bit because you are a part of NFL history.
Yeah.
And you know exactly what I'm talking
yeah.
about.
Oh, yeah.
And we're fast forward Detroit.
Mhm.
What was that like? Marching out on the field. You're standing at literally midfield.
Yeah. So that was my fourth game in the NFL, third game of the 2021 season. We're playing Detroit in Detroit. We're down. I think we were down 18-16 or.
It was 17-16. You
Okay.
guys were down.
Yeah.
I just watched because I watched it this morning.
Okay, so we're down. I knew we were losing.
And it was a crazy it wasn't even a good drive.
No.
It was like Lamar did
Yeah.
his
It was like-
Lamar electric thing.
Yeah, it was like 4th and 20 or something. 4th and 19.
It was 4th and
I think
19.
Yeah. And, I was, only in my fourth game. I'm thinking there's no way, there's no way in hell. Obviously, we're not going to kick a field goal. It's 4th and 19. I remember Sam Cook looked at me and he's like, you get your ass ready to go. It's like, we're going to get a first down here and we're going to kick a game-winning field goal. And I'm like, still in disbelief, like there's no way. Like Lamar does what Lamar does best and makes the unbelievable play to Sammy Watkins. And I'm like, oh my God, we're actually going to do this. So for me, that was my first ever game-winning field goal snap of my career.
No pressure.
None. And so we get the first down. We're in full panic mode because there's only like a handful of seconds on the clock. And so I'm like, Sam's like, get down, let's go, let's get a snap. And so I snap one. I'd probably snap it 10 feet in the air. Sam has to like stand up, barely catches it. He looks at me, he's like, you ready? I'm like, that's as good as I'm going to get. Like, I'm ready to go, like, whatever. I didn't realize until we got onto the field and we huddle up. So I bring the guys over, we huddle up, make sure we got all the guys. I'd say my thing, we'd break. It wasn't until I started addressing the ball that I realized I was in the logo. And I'm like, usually Justin's the guy in the logo, right? Not me. I'm usually in front of the logo. And so I'm getting my feet in the ground. I'm like, I'm standing on blue turf. Like that doesn't happen.
That's not right. Yeah.
And I didn't know until after we made the field goal that it was the NFL record. Because all I was thinking about was, this is my first ever like game-winning field goal to beat the Detroit Lions. Like I have to be perfect right here. Not thinking we're kicking a 66-yarder to break the NFL record. I was thinking just do my job to win this game. And luckily for me, I had probably the best snap of my career up to this point. And everything went perfect. Doinked it in off the
You saw that doink, dude. You're like, oh.
So one of the things I loved about Justin was I knew if I did my job perfectly, he was going to execute. And so I snap it. I see 12 o'clock laces. I see Sam get it down really fast. I'm seeing the ball for what feels like an eternity, even though it's only like, a second or less. And I hear the sound of him kick it. And I immediately started, basically immediately after the contact got off me, I started celebrating. You can see from the TV copy, because they're shooting face on.
Right.
You can see me, I'm putting my hands up. I'm just, it's going in. I've seen him make this kick. I didn't think it was going to be as dramatic as it was. But I was like, I've seen him make kicks further than this. This is in. And so I started celebrating. and then it hits the crossbar, and I'm like, there was like a split second. You can't tell if it's going forward or going through the uprights. And then I see our guy Avon. He's the ball shagger for us, and I see him like he's on the other side of the upright, so he knows it's coming to him. So he's like celebrating, and so then we just started going nuts, and everybody started running all over the place, and just like it was pure pandemonium. One of the most unbelievable experiences I've ever had in professional sports.
It's got to be amazing. I mean, I can remember myself sitting in the living room looking at this game, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, are you kidding me? Like, let's throw up a Hail Mary here.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, all right, wait, it's like, okay. And then when you see the doink, I'm just like, oh.
Yeah.
And it went through.
Doink's the right way.
And my son and I just exploded. We were like, oh my gosh. Like, it was a celebration heard around Maryland.
It was, the stadium, obviously, Ford Field got a little quiet, but we were going bananas on the sideline and on the field. Everyone rushed the field. And then it took us a minute to realize, like, we didn't just win the game. Like, we did something really special. And it's, for a long snapper, that's as good as it's going to get. And that was only in my fourth game. So I'm like, oh, I guess this is my career. We're just going to break records all the time. And it was truly one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of.
So now I do have to say, because, as you're a long snapper for the Ravens, I hate to say it, but you're in a position where you really don't get a lot of recognition unless you do something wrong.
Yes.
So that's got to be really nerve-wracking and frustrating, because if you have a perfect day, you're not going to really get any recognition. But if you get one into the end zone, you're going to be on SportsCenter tomorrow.
Yeah, you're going to be on the not top 10, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it comes with the territory. We have a job to do, and it's very unlike most jobs where we are almost demanded perfection every time we go out on the field. And when we don't do our job, it is like national news. What it feels like national news. Obviously, I've had a few in my day where just you feel like this big. You feel like everyone in the stadium and everyone on TV is just like looking at you. Because I've had my fair share of bad ones over the years, and that's just part of the game. And it is a very difficult thing, and kind of what separates the guys that play for a long time in my position and the guys that don't is how do you handle that stress, because it is such an important play, no matter if it's punt or field goal, more so on field goal because we're putting points on the board. And as we know in the NFL, basically 80% of the games are decided by less than a touchdown. So every time you can put points on the board is huge. And it takes a lot to come to grips with that. Like, you have to be really comfortable and confident in yourself and the guys that you're working with, and your preparation and your ability to know that you can execute no matter the situation. Because we're gonna have some bad games. Like, we're gonna have some bad weather games. Our team is so good, especially on offense, that we're gonna be put in opportunities that most guys aren't gonna get put in, to win games, to hit really big time kicks in the playoffs and things like that. And you're expected to do your job at 100% every time. And it's something that I take a lot of pride in. And I think I learned from Morgan and Sam and Justin that the way you cope with that is by working your butt off. We demand perfection in practice. We train in a way that is extremely high stress, almost equivalently to playing in a game, as close as you can get to playing in those big moments, so that when we get into those moments, we know we're not guessing if we're going to do our job right. We know it's going to be done, and it's going to be done at the highest level possible. And that comes in our preparation. And that's where I find the most solace and comfort, is that I know I've done everything in my power to get me to this moment. Just take a deep breath, trust yourself, and do what you've always done. And your body's going to execute. If you get your mind out of the way, your body will execute at the highest level.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, practice. You're about to start your practice.
Yep.
Going to training camp. You have all the fans out there. It's going to be fantastic. But I will say, last season, there was a little bit of scrutiny on your team, on you guys, because there was we were used to perfection in Baltimore. And then there was a string of games where there was some missed kicks, missed opportunities, and you guys came under some scrutiny, like, "Hey, what's going on here? Like, what's the deal?" How did you deal with that added scrutiny of having those missed kicks and
People thought that it was Armageddon in Baltimore.
It felt like it, yeah.
And it definitely, the outside presence made it feel like the walls were caving in on us and everything was falling apart. And we know each other. We worked together for a long time. There's only one way to get through that, and that's continuing to work. You have to have the confidence in yourself and in the unit that no matter when you get called upon, that you're going to be able to execute. And it's like we could sit there and listen to these guys say that, Tuck's losing it and, I'm not snapping great or Jordan's not doing this great. And like, it's easy to fall in that trap. We know what we're doing and we take pride in what we're doing. And all we could do is lean on each other and continue to work, continue to take advantage of the opportunities that our team was putting us in and instilling confidence and trust in Harbs and the other coaches on the staff that we're going to do our job. When we get called upon, we're going to do it. And yeah, it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced in Baltimore, because since I've been on the team, like we have been the best special teams, from the kicking and punting perspective, we were the best. And so it was very out of the ordinary for us, but that's part of the game, man. It's what we do is not easy. What Tuck was able to do for 12 years was unmatched. There's nobody has
Hall of
ever,
Famer, for
yeah,
sure,
I
Hall of
mean,
Famer.
there's nobody has ever been able to do what he did over a 12-year span. And yeah, we didn't have our best showing last year, but we battled, and then down the stretch after the bye week, we got it together and we were 100% after the bye week. And, I think a lot of that is accredited to Justin, being the leader of our unit and just saying, "Hey, look, guys, I'm not doing good. I need you guys to continue to play at the level you're playing at and just trust me and know that I'm going to get it done. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it done." And I give a ton of credit to him because he didn't bat an eye. He didn't let that other stuff get to him. He continued to go out there. He continued to swing. He wasn't passive. He was aggressive. And down the stretch, man, he played better than anybody down the stretch. And I mean, that kick we had in Buffalo, man, I think it was 53 yards. That is not an easy kick, man.
No.
The field was basically frozen, winds going every direction. It was snowing. It was freaking like 20 degrees. Felt like way colder than that. That's a kick that it's almost more likely to miss than go in. And after everything he went through last season, for him to go down there and just absolutely hit a perfect ball right down the middle, like that's a testament to his character, to who he is. And I was just there to do my job. And he had the trust in me, he had the trust in Jordan and the trust in himself that we're going to get it done. And we executed towards the end.
Yeah, you guys sure did. And this year, we're excited to see what Tyler's going to bring to the team. And
Mm-hmm.
you guys are working hard. And yeah, it's going to be an exciting time. It's going to be a great season, and we're looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun year. Tyler's a great player, young kid. Going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a change for me. I'm used to being significantly younger than the guys I work with. He came in, Sam is 10 years older than me. Tuck's, 3.5 years older than me. For a change, I'm the oldest guy by a long way. I think I'm 6 years older than Jordan and 10 years older than Tyler. And so it'll be a new role for me. One I take a lot of pride in. I think it's a role that I've always been the oldest guy. In college, even at the end of my baseball career, I was like the oldest guy on my team. So I take a lot of pride in that. I have a lot of knowledge and experience that I've learned from guys over the years, and it's a role that I think I'm going to do well in, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to be the leader for our unit.
Excellent. All right. Well, I guess I should wrap this up. Before I do, I want to do a little segment here called The Last Call, where I'm going to ask you a series of just rapid fire questions. And first thing that comes to mind, just holler out your answer.
All
And
right.
these are just kind of like fun little questions that I think you'll get a kick out of. And these are totally unscripted. So There'll be some interesting answers here.
We'll see how it goes.
What's more challenging, snapping for a field goal or for a punt?
Punt is harder.
What's a more stressful situation, bases loaded, 2 outs, bottom of the ninth, or long snapping a game-winning field goal?
If it's the World Series, it's hitting, but if it's a regular season game, snapping a field goal.
If you get to change positions with one player for one game, who you switching with?
Lamar Jackson.
Oh, you want to be the QB, huh?
Oh yeah, dude.
Nice.
Give me the rock.
How would he do as a long snapper?
He'd probably do really good. I mean, I don't know anything he's not good at. So
He would just say, screw this, and pick it up and start running with it.
yeah, do a little fumble rooski. Yeah.
All right, what kind of beer would we find in your beer fridge?
Ooh, Tall Boy Miller Lights, baby, and Mick Ultras for my wife.
All right. Is it harder to snap in the rain or the snow?
Rain,
Do you prefer playing in extreme heat or extreme cold?
extreme cold,
Going back to your baseball days, are you a sunflower seed guy or bubblegum kind of guy?
bubble gum,
All right. Who's the coolest athlete you've ever gotten to meet?
Mookie Betts.
And finally, what is your favorite stadium to play in other than M&T Bank?
Pittsburgh. What's that? Shurion Stadium. Heinz
I
Field?
don't even know what they call it these
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
It's like got this really
Yeah,
weird name.
I know it's Heinz Field still.
That's what when I visited there, because I've taken a stadium tour there. I've been in the locker room, and I was just like, I just call it Heinz Field.
It's a lion's den, but it is electric.
Yeah, it actually is a really nice stadium.
It is. It's a great environment. The Ravens Steelers, it's a great rivalry. A lot of history there. It's just so much fun going into that place. You know, it's you and your 52 other teammates plus coaches, backs against the wall. Like, it is electric to be there.
I can't imagine. Well, we're looking forward to seeing what the Ravens do this season, man. I'm looking forward to having some great conversations with some awesome people and some future Beer With episodes. Mm-hmm. And this has been a great chat. I love it.
Yeah, I've had a blast. I'm excited to see what comes of this, and I'm excited for the season.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of other ventures too, and you do some work for charity. You want to give it a quick shout out, like some of the charity?
Yeah,
work
I
that
do.
you do?
I'm partnering with Warrior Canine Connection this year. They do service animals for wounded veterans with PTSD. I think it's a great cause. It's kind of
awesome.
combines two things that my wife and I really love in the military and in animals. And it's a perfect cause. They're going to be my cause and my cleats this season. So give them a look. I do some other stuff with ALS in OJ Bergantz's foundation. I work with Cal Ripken's foundation and Jonathan Ogden's foundation and Ed Reed's foundation. And any way that I can give back, to the community, because I'm in a unique position that I probably shouldn't be here, but I've come from a very humble family, and we try to do everything we can to give back to the people that deserve it or that need it. And so I'm honored to work with some of these great foundations and see what we can get done this year.
Excellent. Well, we'll link some of those in the description. And again, thank you so much, and looking forward to our next episode of Beer With, and you're going to be the co-host for that one.
Yes, sir.
And we
I'm
won't give
excited.
anything away right now, but really looking forward to it, man.
Thank you, brother. I'm looking forward to it too.
Thanks for sitting down with us, and we'll see you next time on Beer With. Peace.